The painting is showing us something that is impossible. Nobody's eyes really look like this. So if you look at this painting and you find it intriguing and beautiful, then that must be because it reveals some truth that is recognized by your heart. Otherwise, something that was merely impossible would be of no value. It would just show you something that doesn't exist. It would not express any truth. But if you see it and are intrigued by it and find a truth in it, then this tells us something about the non-physical, immutable, eternal nature of truth. If the truth is in the art, then it has to come from somewhere. It has to be identifiable somehow, even though not physically observable, because the painting itself shows something impossible. Welcome to Ostracon, a podcast that translates fragments into the whole from which they came. Today we're talking about The False Mirror, a painting by the Belgian surrealist René Magritte, who lived from 1898 to 1967. We've done previous episodes about Magritte's life and work, and we'll link to them below. So rather than spending time on a biography today, we'll move directly to the piece. The False Mirror is a painting of an eye. The eye fills the entirety of the canvas. It has no eyelashes. It's looking directly at you. But the striking thing about it is that instead of a pupil, you see the open blue sky with clouds floating through it. Like so many of Magritte's wonderful works, it immediately pulls you up short and suggests that there is more to what we see than can be seen. Like his other works, it suggests that everything is not as it seems at first look. And this is maybe especially poignant in the context of a painting of an eye, which is examining not only the depths of reality, what is out there to be discovered, but also the act of looking and perhaps the limitations of looking. And I go back again to the name of the painting, The False Mirror. So let's talk first about a couple of ways that we can understand this piece. Secondly, about the title. And third, I'd like to spend a moment on what it means, especially given the subject matter of this painting, that we can look and discover and understand these deeper concepts from the arrangement of paint on a canvas. First, how can we understand this piece? Most immediately, it presents a testament to the unboundedness of the human person, and that can be developed in several ways. To look behind the eyes is almost to consider the unlimited mind, our ability to engage in great concepts such as art, philosophy, mathematics, the function of the universe, personal relationship, love of one another, and above all these things, contemplation of God and the source of life and the meaning of life. All of this is going on within us, within this body. And so in the sense of the old phrase that the eyes are the window to the soul, it's almost like a recognition of this great capacity for identity, thought, discovery, contemplation that is within us. But it's not just what we think. The blue cloud-filled sky is suggestive not just of great capacity, but of great expanse, of unboundedness, of freedom, even of heaven. And in a life where we find ourselves constrained by survival, by the limitations of our needs, of time, which is fleeting, sometimes of illness, or suffering. This great expanse suggests that there is more. We are all concerned with what is fair, what is just, what is due, and we all have a sense that there is something incongruous, maybe unjust about our circumstances, that beings of this great capacity and understanding, who long to live, long to know the truth, long to express themselves, long to explore, would be in any way confined by the contingencies of life or the realities of mortality. We have the suspicion that something is not right, that we were not made for separation or death. And in biblical terms, the incongruity we're feeling is the life of humankind made in the image of God, made in a destiny for paradise, but living in the fall. It is incongruous. In terms of Christ, this is the reconciliation that he achieves, taking on the suffering of the fall, taking the human identity itself through death and into the resurrection, so that reconciled we are again destined for and directed to God, to live out the fullness of our image, the fullness of our freedom. And this painting suggests that in that incongruity, the truth remains, the truth of where we come from, the truth of what we are destined for, this expanse of freedom, of unlimitedness, of being heavenward, shown by the sky in the iris, that this is real, that it lives even inside the body, even inside our bodily experiences. Another way that you can understand the painting is to think of the words of Christ himself. The kingdom of heaven is within you. A statement of tremendous power, of tremendous meaning for the identity of the human person and how we must treat one another. It follows immediately to love God with all your heart, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. When the kingdom of heaven, that is, the source and origin of all that is, the place of being itself, the source of beauty, the truth, the eternity, lives within you and with those around you. Elsewhere in the Gospels, we have the description of the human person as the temple of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit, God, active in our life, constantly renewing us and bringing to fulfillment God's creation and our own creation with God, that it lives within us, that God lives within us. And the eye in the painting, looking back at us, seems to say, see the truth, see the heaven within you and those around you. Another wonderful expression that this painting calls to mind is the expression often rendered in English as the apple of my eye, or the apple of the eye. It's actually an expression that is based on a Jewish phrase that appears in Proverbs and elsewhere in the Old Testament that means something more like the little person of the eye. And in fact, there are multiple languages that use words that are similar to or derived from little man or little girl to identify the pupil of the eye. The Jewish scriptures use the phrase in reference to something that is held as dear and precious, maybe as precious as you might consider sight itself. But there's something more to it. To see the little person in the eye, you must be close enough to look into the pupil of another. And what little person do you see? Yourself, reflected in their eye. So this expression encompasses not only preciousness, but great intimacy. Intimacy in the closeness that we have to one another, and in the way that we reflect one another. That if I am close enough to you, I see something of myself, And why would that be? Because we are all made in the image of God. We all come from the great source, endowed with the dignity and the destiny of that source. So in discovering the identity of one another, we discover and confirm our own identity and all of our identities. Just as much as you could interpret the little person in the eye as seeing yourself in them, you could also imagine it as seeing them in you, or seeing yourself through their eyes. All of these modes of looking require intimacy. They all reveal the truth of identity. And much like that closeness between two persons when they look eye to eye, here we are with the painting, eye to eye. Second, let's think for a moment about the title, because although we find a revelation of truth in this painting, the title is in fact The False Mirror. What does it mean? Well, let's consider what is being mirrored, because when you look at the painting, you see something that is not possible to see with the eye. You see heaven in the iris of the eye. So the painting does not show ourselves to us as we appear, whether that be the physical look of the eye or whether it be the contingencies of life. So the painting is not the mirror. What is mirrored? The act of looking. We look at the painting, and the painting looks back at us. This is where you have the visible symmetry of a mirror. The mirror is the act of looking. And what is false about that mirror? What is false about the act of looking and looking back? It is, as we said at the beginning, that not everything is as it seems. That if you live only in the world of the physical or the material, then I am here and you are there. I look at you and you are not me. You look at me and I am somebody who is not you. Looking and looking back is a false mirror. It shows material differences potentially to the exclusion of deeper identity. And so the painting points out what is false about the mirror, about the act of looking, by showing the kingdom of heaven within. It shows that there is more than meets the eye, that we must go beyond the act of material looking into the understanding of our identity. This is the best understanding of the title, The False Mirror, because it is based around the thing that is actually mirrored, which is the look. However, somebody might take the position that you could consider the painting the mirror, and that the painting itself shows us something that is false, and that the painting itself is a false mirror. But if you take that interpretation, you get to the same place. Because what does a mirror do? A true mirror shows you things exactly as they look. So it would show you facing back merely your material self. So if you view the painting as the mirror, then it is a false mirror because it does not reflect back to you only the material appearance. It reflects back something more than is visible. And while that means that it goes beyond the visible function of a mirror, it doesn't mean that it fails to express truth. The incongruity of the reflection is exactly the thing that we're interested in. It mirrors the incongruities that we feel in our own heart and suggests the answer, the reason that our destiny and our freedom is beyond the material. So even if the painting is a false mirror that shows you something other than the material self, you get to the same place. It does not work to say that the painting is a mirror and it's showing you something that is false. It's reflecting this grand human identity that is false. The reason that doesn't work is because a mirror that makes a false reflection is reflecting the person looking into the mirror. So if the painting were misleading you about your own reflection, it would be saying that you, the viewer, are not actually looking into this mirror with eternity behind your eyes. That's not a commentary on the lack of the eternity. It's a commentary on the sufficiency of the viewer's seeing. And again, you come to the same place, which is that incongruity is expressive of a truth, that there is more than the material. And what it really is a command to the viewer to see more. I am showing you what is not within your eyes as you look, which begs the question, am I seeing all? Finally, because this is a painting that is so much about seeing, it's worth thinking for a moment about what it means that we can discover these deep concepts in art. Because the painting is showing us something that is impossible. Nobody's eyes really look like this. So if you look at this painting and you find it intriguing and beautiful, then that must be because it reveals some truth that is recognized by your heart. Otherwise, something that was merely impossible would be of no value. It would just show you something false. It would just show you something that doesn't exist. It would be of no value because it would not express any truth. But if you see it and are intrigued by it and find a truth in it, then this tells us something about the non-physical, immutable, eternal nature of truth. If the truth is in the art, then it has to come from somewhere. It has to be identifiable somehow, even though not physically observable, because the painting itself shows something impossible. Pulled up short by it, shaken up, we discover truth in something surprising and unobservable. That act confirms what is taught by the painting, that there is more than meets the eye, that there are greater, more durable truths than the material world, than the visible. And if they are beyond the material, then what are they? They point that there is a truth revealed by an eternal source. And maybe that's even another way that we can understand the title. Look at this thing that is not visible. I don't say it is not real, but it is not visible. And understand how it reflects you. Because the truth of God is both greater than the material world, but also what we are destined for.